Saturday, March 17th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So many of you have been asking me about March 26, 2018 and what I think about it. Of course, that will be the day when the International Energy Exchange in Shanghai, China, will start trading in a yuan oil contract that will be also deliverable. So it's the first oil contract in God knows how long that's not traded just in US dollars. I've made many videos, and you can search in my channel, and I'll put it up in the cards, about how it will be a threat to the petrodollar. And am I saying that come March 26th or Monday, the week after next, the world will change completely overnight? No, it's going to take a while. Things don't happen overnight. And I think they're already happening, but it will be accentuated. Excuse me. I compare March 26, 2018 to August 15th, 1971. And what was August 15th, 1971? Well, that's when the United States, under the leadership of President Nixon, defaulted on its Bretton Woods obligation to pay 1 ounce of gold for every $35 that foreign central banks, redeemed. So he came out. It was on a weekend. I'm not sure if it was Saturday or Sunday. And President Nixon said that he was temporarily closing the gold window. So it's been quite a while, but it's temporary. So the impact of that decision was not felt overnight, of course. The next week, things didn't go crazy or anything. But over the next decade, the consequences of that decision were tremendous, not only economically, financially, but also geopolitically. It was a turbulent decade, and the price of gold, of course, went from 35 to almost 900. Silver went up to $50. It all culminated in 1980. You had like the oil embargo. OPEC and the Middle Eastern countries became very powerful. The Shah of Iran was deposed in the revolution, which I think is related to the oil price going up. I've been watching some documentaries about Iran. The Shah of Iran came to power in 1954. The Americans put him in there, and the country was broke. And then all of a sudden in the 1970s, with, the oil embargo, the rise in oil prices, Iran became a powerful country again. You look at the interviews the Shah of Iran gave to the Western media. He they asked him, do you think it's unfair that you've raised the price of oil? And he said, well, the West has been doing things, they've been living beyond their means. The inflation is not our fault. So he was basically saying, you guys, took the monetary system off gold, and we just want what's fair for our oil price. And I think that's what led to his I wouldn't be surprised if the American CIA were not involved in fomenting that Iranian revolution. And I remembered that really well. I was a teenager at the time, so there were, economically, you had inflation in the US, in Europe, you had unemployment, stagflation. But of course, the system almost collapsed. The dollar almost collapsed. Paul Volcker came in and let rates go to, 20%. And ever since then, they've been able, the powers that be have been able to control the fiat money system, Kissinger made sure that the Arabs, and OPEC sold their oil in dollars, hence the petrodollar. The dollar had to be worth something, but they had to pay, they had to give something in return to the oil producer. They had to give them higher prices and protection. But now, with the crisis of '08, I think it was the first, chink in the armor of this fiat money system, of the end of it. And there's a documentary about the '08 crisis. I forgot what it's called. I think it was on the BBC but I watched it years ago, and this is based on fact, and it's true. And it's a meeting at the New York Fed after Lehman collapsed, because all the other after Lehman collapsed, you have to understand. Everyone was talking about, next it's Morgan Stanley, then it's Goldman Sachs, then it's JP Morgan. The whole world was going to implode. So they had to do something. And he called in all the big Wall Street guys at the New York Fed, Hank Paulson, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. And he basically said, and I'll quote him, and he said the West is fucked. That's the term he used. He said everything's changed. We've gone from, hula hoops and television, all this. The West is gone. Nothing's going to be the same again. And they've bought time, basically. All the, extraordinary monetary policy we've had, QE, Operation Twist, TARP, all the money printing in Europe, all around the world, changing accounting standards, hiding, losses in the Fed's balance sheet, like from Bear Stearns. I think it's Maiden Lane. That's where all the rubbish from Bear Stearns is. It's at Maiden Lane, LLC at the New York Fed. They hid everything. They've marked things to model instead of to market, and that's how they saved, the system. But I think the rest of the world knew. Hank Paulson, what Hank Paulson said, and that's why China, Russia, India, and a lot of the Asian countries, they've been preparing for the day when they need to have, their own monetary system backed by gold. They have to be able to trade with themselves in their own currencies. And that's what this has been all about. Creating, the oil exchange in Shanghai, the lines of credit, China and Russia trading in their own currencies, China, the One Belt, One Road. This is all part of it. And what will it mean for Americans and the West? Well, it will mean that, the power of the US dollar is going to decline. There won't be as much demand for dollars because half the world will probably go off the dollar. Not completely, but they will have their own monetary system. And I think that's what March 26 is all about. It's the beginning of that. The consequences, it's difficult to say. If you ask someone back in 1971 about the closure of the gold window, what it would mean in the next 8-9 years, it would, I don't think anyone would have been able to tell you exactly what was going to happen, but it's not going to be great. So what will it mean for Americans? Continuing how can I say, loss of living standard, because if there's not as much demand for dollars, a lot of the dollars that are abroad, they're gonna flow back home, and what that will mean is, those dollars are gonna inflate the whole system at home. The reason why America has been able to print loads of money without, without massive inflation is that those dollars stay out of the U.S. But with March 26, there will be less demand for dollars. All the dollars outside the U.S. are going to flow back in, and it's going to be like almost like a third world country. Where I grew up in Brazil, where they printed money. Cruzeiro at the time, or real. That money doesn't stay out; it comes in, and that's why they had 3 different or 4 different currencies in the last 60 years. That's what it's going to mean for the West. And even the euro, or the pound, all the paper currencies, because the dollar has been the reserve currency, and it's the basis for all the fiat money currencies in the West. I'm not saying that China and India and Russia are not going to suffer, but I think they've prepared themselves a lot more for this. And, they won't be as dependent on the US dollar. So I think that's what March 26 will mean. Does it mean that it's the end of the US dollar, that the US dollar will collapse? No, it will still be there. I think the beneficiaries will be hard assets priced in US dollars, like gold, silver, and all the other commodities. So that's what I think March 26 will mean. The world will change. It's going to be like August 15th, 1971, and it's not going to happen overnight, as I said. So there you have it. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and you can also follow me on steemit.com and on Twitter. Take care. Bye.